Salutations, respected viewers. My name is George from Ireland. Well, that's not really my name, that's my handle. Anyway, here I am at the former Crystal Palace. So, Crystal Palace was built in 1851 in Hyde Park, just opposite where Royal Albert Hall now stands, because the eponymous Prince Albert was the genius behind the whole idea, the great exhibition of the works of industry of all nations, inviting the Zollverein, that's the various German states in their customs union, the United States, France, Russia, many other lands to exhibit their manufactures there. And that's the very first World Trade Fair or World Expo, which goes on to this very day, every 2 years. And a journalist dubbed it the Crystal Palace, the Great Exhibition Hall. And about a third of the United Kingdom's population came to visit it. So it was an astonishing success. Nothing like it had ever taken place. And remember, the train had been invented in 1825, so 26 years later, the railway network was sufficiently spread throughout the realm to allow such a huge number of people to come and visit. You've got to remember how many people living near the bread line just had no disposable income. So almost everybody who had 2 pennies to rub together came to London to see it. And after a year it was dismantled and it was moved about 10 miles south here to Sydenham in South London, and it was reassembled here, and it stood here until 1936, an enormous glass structure. And you can see from this flat cleared land, gives you a rough idea of the dimensions of it. Something like 500 meters long, about 100 meters wide, blah blah blah, and it was very, very tall as well, about 40 meters tall. So the largest glass structure in the world at the time. But anyway, there was a fire in 1936 which destroyed much of the interior because it had some metal structure to keep all the glass in place. But there were pieces of wood, there was carpet, there were curtains, and obviously heat cracks under certain, glass cracks at a certain level of heat. So the whole thing came crashing down. Obviously they've cleared the glass away. So that was 1936. So this area of London is also called Sydenham. But from the 1850s, it was popularly known as Crystal Palace, which is why Crystal Palace Football Club was based here. Crystal Palace Football Club is notorious as perhaps the most execrable team in English football, I'm afraid. Right, what else? So you can see the steps up to the higher level, and this place commands a most magnificent vista over London, where you can see the valley beyond. We'll look around later. Over there you see 2 red sphinxes, because in the mid-19th century, they began this fad for all things ancient Egyptian. The time of the Napoleonic Wars, Napoleon with his savants had been to Egypt, and Champollion had deciphered the Rosetta Stone in Demotic Greek and ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and so on. And lots of ancient Egyptian artifacts have been brought back here, Cleopatra's Needle and so forth. So that's why they really got into these things. Of course, in the 1920s, what do you see? I see wonderful things. Howard Carter, Lord Carnarvon and all that, those people who raided Tutankhamun's tomb, despite the curse, they renewed this craze for all things ancient Egyptian. You can see this very tall mast. You can see it from all across South London. I like to tell little children that's the Eiffel Tower, because of course they can't tell that, we can't see to France from here. I don't know what it's about. Is it a radio mast? Is it for satellite phones? I think we don't need that for phones. We need satellite dishes. And there's another one over here. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, behind me is this National Sports Centre. You see the floodlights. And there's a huge swimming pool with a 5-metre board. It was used as a venue in the London Olympics. Well, so if you go to Hyde Park, you can see the trees are laid out from the 1850s in the dimensions of the Great Exhibition Hall, or the Crystal Palace. And using the proceeds from the ticket sales, they purchased a lot of South Kensington, much of which was open countryside until that time, and they built many educational institutions and cultural institutions: Royal Albert Hall, the Royal School of Mines, Imperial College London, the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Science Museum, the Natural History Museum, the Royal College of Music, and I may be forgetting a few. That's all from Crystal Palace.